has resigned your case today, so she'll start out the interview with the first questions. So let's begin. Today we have for parole consideration John Turby, DOC number 98923, who's a first felony offender who was convicted of first-degree murder, 2 counts, at a trial by jury, and on May 26, 1981, was sentenced to serve life in prison in St. Charles Parish. Your eligibility date is 8/1/21. Your good time date is 4/26/29, and your full term date is 6/3/79. Does that information sound correct to you, Mr. Tunham?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the first question goes to you is, what's the reason you're here today, and why do you think we should be releasing you today?
I'm here today to meet the parole board as required by the parole board itself for parole. I'm asking mercy on the court, on the board to grant me parole. What I can say as far as why should you grant me parole, that is something that, I can only say that I would have to say that I was charged, of course, with a first-degree murder and all that and everything. And as far as being able to undo all that, I can't undo all that. But so I have to point to my 44-year prison record and everything that has been accomplished in there, which is quite a lengthy that shows no violence or drug related or any kind of violations that would cause them to revoke my Class A trustee status that they gave me in 1986, would be 38 years ago. I've accomplished all the requirements as as far as the rules go that I know about. All the programs, everything, in addition to having a good work record that I had no disciplinary reports, work-related disciplinary reports in those 42 years I've been in Angola. And if there is another rule or anything that I needed to comply with, I would have complied with it. And so for these reasons, I just have to rely upon my record, the prison record, for being granted parole.
Thank you. Mr. Lancaster, would you like to speak now?
Good morning. Jace Marcantel is here. He's a third-year law student at the LSU Law Center in the Parole and Reentry Clinic. He's certified under Louisiana Supreme Court Rule 20, and he has helped Mr. Toneby prepare for this hearing, along with second-year student Grace Richard. Mr. Marcantel is prepared to give a statement on behalf of Mr. Toneby.
Hello, my name is Jace Marcantel, and I'm a third-year student certified under Supreme Court Rule 20. My supervisors are present with us today, Mr. Robert Lancaster and Ms. Adrienne Hutchinson. I, along with fellow student Grace Richard, have been assisting Mr. John Wayne Toneby in this matter. As you know, Mr. Toneby comes before this honorable committee having been granted clemency after a favorable recommendation by the Pardon Board. It is of note that he was incarcerated of an original sentence of life without parole. Before this computation of the sentence, there was no chance that he would see the free world again. However, that did not stop Mr. John Toneby from seeking to rehabilitate himself. The man you see before you today is not the man who entered prison. The man before you is respectful, kind-hearted, diligent, and most importantly, rehabilitated. While in prison, John has committed himself to serve others and to serve God. Shortly after entering prison, Mr. Toneby began to practice his faith with a new tremendous zeal. He began to read the Bible and meditate on the words within. He has regularly attended Thursday night Bible study for the past 25 years. He has worked with the Cowboys of Christ, where he uses his musical talents with the guitar to minister to other members. And he operates a one-on-one ministry as an inmate pastor. These commitments to his religion show that Mr. Toneby is committed to something beyond himself. He's self-disciplined, and we believe that these values will also cross over into the free world. I'd like to point to two concrete examples to show Mr. Toneby's selflessness. On one occasion, Mr. Toneby has volunteered with the hospice at Angola, but the way he began this is inspiring. One of his fellow churchgoers fell ill to cancer and was placed in hospice. Mr. Toneby, being a good friend, went to see him and administered to him. But while he was there, Mr. Toneby noticed that there was other inmates who required consolation and required ministry, and he took it upon himself to go and see these men. Another example is evidenced by the letter by Miss Erica Navalance. That details Mr. John Toneby's relationship with Mr. Alton Baptiste, a fellow inmate. Mr. Toneby knew Mr. Baptiste for several years, and sadly, Mr. Baptiste started to go blind. Once again, Mr. Toneby took it upon himself to be Mr. Baptiste's guide. He would guide him from the chow hall to the dorms and anywhere he might need to go. It's even stated that he would guide Mr. Baptiste to his attorney's appointments and wait on a bench outside the entire time so he could make sure that Mr. Baptiste got back to his dorm room safely. Not only is his religion and his selflessness a reason that he should be granted parole today, he is also trusted by the institution. He is a Class A trustee and has been a trustee since 1986. He has never lost this status. By being a trustee and maintaining good conduct, he has been able to work and provide little money for himself. He has worked at the 909 warehouse, a job I would note he specifically requested because he felt he could do more for the institution. He was required to keep a detailed record of building materials. He also worked at the American Corrections Clerk, and he was set up to do filing and reporting systems required by the American Corrections. He held this position for 16 years. He has completed 100 hours of pre-release classes, Thinking for a Change, Anger Management, Toast Effective Listening, Victims Awareness, and many others. Each of these participations was, as I've stated, done voluntarily. He had no hope that he would get out. Additionally, he has also lived a sober life in prison. Immediately after his arrest, he made a promise to himself that he would never consume alcohol again, and Mr. Toneby has kept that promise. He has utilized the tools of his faith to increase his commitment, and he has solidified these with the tools provided for by this institution. He has attended Alcoholics Anonymous and chemical dependency classes. He will also continue to live a sober life if he were granted release. He has made a commitment to surround himself with people who follow this lifestyle and will support him, and he is more than ready to face any temptation that comes forward. His likelihood of recidivism is not only likelihood to not recidivate is not only evidenced by these I've said, but it's also by the record he's held within prison. Mr. Toneby has been incarcerated for 44 years, and over that course, he's received 6 write-ups. The last of his write-up was 20 years ago. None of these write-ups were offensive, they were violent in nature, and we believe that the last write-up was in fact stricken from the record. This shows a commitment to the rules of the institution, which entails he will commit to the rules outside of the institution. Also, his likelihood of recidivism is not only decreased by his adherence to rules, but also by his age and medical history. Mr. Toneby is 82 years old. Decades of research from the U.S. Department of Justice has shown that people released at age 65 or older are the least likely of any age group to reoffend, and the arrest rates drop in almost 0% in those older than 65. It's also worth mentioning he has a low Tiger score. Mr. Toneby also has an extensive medical history. He has diminished vision and he has mobility issues. He cannot walk without feeling pain. He has expressed to us that if he were released, he would go get medical treatment, some of which he cannot get in prison. We believe that this decreases his chances of reoffending, as he would not want to jeopardize this newfound opportunity for medical relief. Also, If he were released, he will complete the residential reentry program through the Louisiana Parole Project. The Louisiana Parole Project has accepted Mr. Tonabee and are willing to help him upon his release. They will get him set up with places to live, benefits. Mr. Tonabee is a veteran, and they're going to get him VA benefits and any other benefits so that he has necessities and he has household and he will not recidivate. Also, with the Parole Project, his support doesn't end there. He has an out-of-state plan where he will go live with his son, Jerry Tonabee, who has expressed in writing, and what you will hear today, that he will take him in and house him. Also, while in Texas, the support still won't end. He has other family members in Oklahoma, numerous of which have written letters of support stating they're willing to help Mr. Tonabee upon release. Also, he's a member of the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma, who have also indicated that they are willing to lend their support to Mr. Tonabee. Finally, in Texas, he'll have access to United Pentecostal Church, where he seeks to deepen his faith. Mr. Tonabee's long-term goal is that he seeks to be released and return to his family, where he can administer his faith to them. He began ministering his faith to his family in prison through letters, and both him and his family are looking forward to the opportunity to receive his faith mission and ministry in person. As shown, Mr. Tonabee is dedicated to his faith. He's sober, he's lived a rehabilitated life, and he's selfless. Mr. Tonabee is a rehabilitated individual. And for these reasons, we respectfully ask this board to grant parole to Mr. John Wayne Tonabee. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we'll hear from the warden at the facility. Do you have anything to add about his conduct record?
Yes, sir. He's accomplished a lot of things since he's been incarcerated. I'm not gonna rehash everything that was said. It is a very good accomplishment. But I would like to say this, that if he is granted parole, I think he needs to attend the victim awareness program before that would happen. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Today we have people in support here. We have Grace Richard, who's with the Parole Project, will not be speaking. We have Adrian Hutchinson, an attorney who also will not be speaking. And we have Grace. Oh, I'm just saying Grace. We also have Melissa Kress, who's a niece, who will be speaking. So go ahead, Ms. Kress.
Hello, everyone. First of all, I just want to say thank you for this opportunity. John Wayne Tonabee is my uncle. He is my mother's baby brother. When I was just a little girl, my mother encouraged me to start writing to him. She always stayed in contact with him. And so he's been writing to me since I was a young girl. He has encouraged me. He has ministered to me through letters and, phone calls. When my mom passed away when I was 29, he was a big help to me. He's been a mentor to me my entire life. He has just continued to bless my family through messages, via JPay or through a letter, phone calls, through difficult times in our lives. He's been there, even though he was in prison. So I'm forever grateful for him, for all of those things. He's been a very positive influence in my life. I have 7 siblings here in Oklahoma, and we are all in support of him being released. And, if he does come to Texas to live with his son, we would still be able to support him. The Choctaw Nation here in Oklahoma does provide health care. And I know that he's, not that far away. If he was to go to Texas, he would still be able to receive that health care that he needs. But anyway, we love him and we appreciate everything he's done for us over the years. And again, we support him being released, and we appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Mr. Kerry Mars from the Parole Project.
Good morning, Kerry Myers, Louisiana Parole Project. I'm certainly not gonna reiterate everything Mr. Marcantel so detailedly laid out about Ms. Tonaby's rehabilitation. We just want to let this board know that we fully support Mr. Marcantel. We've been supporting him since his clemency hearing. We will provide him the transition services he needs while he is here. He will get all the support, the mentorship, and the guidance that we can provide while he's waiting for his transfer to Oklahoma, to Texas. So I just ask this board to consider all the factors and grant his parole today.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer. All right. That concludes the supporters. We have we have some people in opposition. So we'll begin with Dufresne.
Uh,
Go ahead. Is that something you want to say?
Yes, sir. There's one more supporter, his son, Jerry, who he'd be living with in Texas.
Well, we don't have him on the list, and we do have. Is he on Zoom? Y'all have him on Zoom?
No, he's here in person. He should have been on the list that was faxed over to you by the institution. I apologize if you didn't have it in advance.
All right, we'll let him go next. Sorry.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, yeah. Hi, my name is Jerry Tonaby. My father, John, is welcome in my home. I'm here to offer support and help him in any way I can. Because of his faithfulness and his religion, God has done a mighty work in my life. He's been very prayerful. I have a testimony of that. Because of his prayers, I am a very prayerful person this day. But I'm here just to offer my support and then let y'all know that he has a place to come, and I do attend North City's United Pentecostal Church in Garland, and the staff there is aware of his potential release and are welcoming him as well. And thank you very much. Really appreciate y'all. Blessings.
Thank you. All right, now we'll move on to the opposition. Right. I called Mr. Leonard, but you must be Ms. Denise?
Yeah, Denise.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, it's just great that he is, all his family that loves him and has time with him. But for the last 44 years, we have not had my father. Mr. Olga had a young daughter that grew up without a mother that she's never gotten to know. Tell you a little bit about my dad. He was one of 10 siblings. He married my mom at the age of 17. They had 5 children and had 26 descendants, with another baby coming out that'll be named after him. He was an asset to his community, and he saved the lives of 3 people in his short time. He was a business owner, a member of the Lions Club, helped with the beginning of the Assembly of God Church in his hours at the age of 14, and the Catholic Church in Parody as an adult. He helped the Parody Volunteer Fire Department get started and was active in so many other ways in his community. He was there rescuing people when the Lulu ferry sunk, and made sure that we brought food from the restaurant to feed people who were working there. The night he was murdered, he stopped to help Miss Odom, who had collapsed on the side of the road, escaping from Mr. Tonaby, who had abducted her from outside of a bar. There were 2 young men trying to help her when my dad stopped, and he sent one to get help. That's when Tonaby walked up behind them and hit my dad and the other young man in the head with the firearm. By the time he got back to the truck, my dad was trying to put Miss Odom in her car to get help. That's when Tonaby ran them both down with his truck, killing them both. He has never owned up to what he did. He blamed alcohol for what he did, trying to say it was a DWI accident. I've known a few excessive drinkers, and none of them have ever murdered two people to get out of an abduction charge. When he was released on bond before trial, he ran and had to be tracked down in another state and brought back. It wasn't the alcohol, it was a total lack of character and empathy for anyone else. He never did anything useful up until that part of his lifetime. And I'm glad he's doing stuff now, but that doesn't make up for what he did before. He took the life of a wonderful man who was only 46 years old, and the life of a young mother whose little girl never got to grow up and knowing her mom. He was sentenced to life without parole. Life means life, not just until you're old and sick. My dad never had a chance to grow old with my mother. She lived to be 89 and missed him every day. He should have gotten the death penalty. Knowing my dad, his only regret is that he didn't save Miss Odom's life that day. Mr. Tonneby's only regrets is that he was caught. And he's trying to make up for having been caught. If he truly had found God, then he would accept his punishment and quit putting my family through this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So Leonard, Dufresne? Mr. Tanner, go ahead.
But some of you may recall, I previously served as a warden of the Reagan Correctional Center. I retired from the department in July 2020 after a 40-year period of correction. In my capacity as warden, I served as a ex officio member of this board committee and sat in on hundreds of cases. I took this responsibility serious, and I strive to give the committee my best advice regarding the offender's probability for a successful return to the community. I believe in that. I see ex-offenders in the community all the time. Oftentimes they come up to me and thank me for my assistance to them more than I get any of them that come to me and complain about. As Ms. Renata can attest to, I spoke up on behalf of offenders I truly felt could safely return to society and contribute to their family and community, but such is not the case today. I'm here today to speak on behalf of Mr. Leo and his other victim, Ms. Odom. My parents were dear friends of Mr. Leo and his wife Anna, and as kids, my brother and I and my youngest brother, who was just an infant at that time, we were all close friends with the Dufresne kids as well, and we're like family. We spent a lot of time with them at our homes, on vacations. Their restaurants, they owned, Mr. Leo and his wife operated 2 successful restaurants during their time, the Creole Kitchen and Captain Leo's Table. We left St. Charles Parish in about 1970, and we moved to West Louisiana, where my mother's family. But we continued to stay in touch with the Dufresnes. My mother and Miss Anna often went to one or the other's house to spend the week, and they would go out to eat, or they'd sew and have a good time spending time with each other. After Mr. Leo's death, and then later my father's, that's what they did, and I recall getting the news of Mr. Leo's murder while I was in my senior year of college. It was simply impossible for me to believe that someone would want to hurt him. He was the kind of person who was well known, that he would give you the shirt off his back. He literally would do that. He and my dad, I remember them joking around. He was a cut up. He got my dad a little bit in trouble one time when they got stopped for a speeding ticket. My dad was driving and Mr. Leo told him, I told him officer, to slow down. He knew the officer, so that was kind of a joke. I know you know the details of the accident that day. And so I don't want to go over them in fine tooth detail, but I'd like to emphasize a few of the facts that should be considered. There's a good chance that Mr. Tonabee knew Mr. Leo because he was in a relationship with Mr. Leo's third cousin and who was pregnant with his child. Mr. Leo observed all of this going on the side of the road, and as I said, he was the kind of person to, always lend a helping hand. He stopped to help. He was aiding this Odom when he was struck from behind and knocked down the other Good Samaritan who had stopped, was knocked out. Mr. Leo then got up and was carrying Miss Odom, trying to get her back to his car when he was run down by Mr. Tommy B. He had the time to go back to his car and make a conscious decision what he was fixing to do. He drove his car, dragging Mr. Leo's body down the road, and finally went through the median to dislodge the body. Later that evening, and this is something I just learned, Mr. Tommy went to the family restaurant, sat down and had ordered a meal. When they were trying to close the restaurant to go look for their dad, he asked if is anything wrong, if you don't mind me asking. Knowing full well what was wrong. And it's, I don't think it's a coincidence that he ended up at that restaurant. He murdered two individuals that evening. Mr. Leo's son, Ed, who's no longer with us and passed away since, found his dad's body the next morning. Personally, I think this crime is this brutal murder of a young lady and a well-known, well-respected local businessman worthy of the death penalty, but that's not for me to decide. Instead, he was sentenced to life in prison. And Mr. Leo's family were satisfied with that. Life in prison afforded time to do many opportunities as he's discussed, as he's brought up, or as his lawyer brought up. But I noticed that, and I'm glad that he professes to be a man of faith. But I noticed he didn't say it. His lawyer had to say it. He should have been able to articulate that with pride, and he didn't. Also, what he did not do was express any remorse to the family. I find that telling. He was afforded many opportunities while he was in prison, and I'm glad that he took advantage of him. I'm glad he got to see and talk to his niece. I'm glad he got to talk to his son, to his other family members. But But this family was deprived of that same opportunity for a number of years, and they've anguished over that. And, I can't help but think that he would be better off here. And if he's, as he says, he's contributing and helping others, that he needs to continue to do that where he is right now. I think that would be the best place for him. I dispute what he says about medical treatment. As a former warden, I know that they get the proper medical treatment that they need. He's talked about a hospice program, and I know that Angola has a renowned hospice program. And so I think his needs will be cared for while he's there. And I really implore the board to deny his request. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. How about Mr. Leonard Dufresne? You want to speak?
I don't.
Okay. Well, we'll just have him down as in-person opposed. We also have in-person here today and opposed Valerie Englad, Veronica Pisani, Tanya Dufresne Danos, Mary Chapman, and Daryl Dufresne. All right, we also have other opposition from law enforcement as documented in the parole investigation. The judge in the case is opposed. The sheriff's office is strongly opposed due to 2 first-degree murder convictions. The police chief was not contacted, and the attorney general is opposed due to the severity and nature of the case. So your case has been assigned to Board Member Renatza, who's going to ask the first questions.
Okay. Good morning, Mr. Tonby.
Good morning, sir, ma'am.
How are you today?
Questionable.
Well, I wanted to, first, before I get started with asking you a couple of questions, I want to thank the Dufresne family for being here. I know you saw Miss Denise during that the party hearing, but I welcome everybody else who's here. It's important that you're here. Thank you, Warden Tanner, for your remarks. Thank you. Mr. Tonby, as mentioned, you were seen by a pardon hearing 4 years ago in November in 2020. You were granted a favorable recommendation, and I noted in the record that that was not a unanimous vote. You did have 1 vote in opposition based on the law enforcement and victim opposition that was expressed, but you received 4 votes with the remarks that you had favorable remarks by the warden. At that time, you had been a Class A trustee for 34 years. You had a low risk. You had good programs. That's what the record said, and only 6 write-ups at that time. So when I look at your record, the only program I see at that time was the pre-release program. What other programs have you taken, so besides your faith-based?
I had victims awareness, and I had substance abuse, Cage Your Rage class. I had the 100-hour class, which contains all those other things that other classes I took also. Off the top of my head, I can't remember, but everything that was required on the rules that I had taken all. Do you have a list of those?
Yes.
Okay, that would be okay. Thinking for a Change, 100-hour pre-release, anger management, values, which I guess the 100-hour class would include all these things: anger management, values classification, goal setting and achieving, personal development, problem solving and decision making, job placement assistance, reentry support resources, employment skills, money management skills, victims awareness and restitution.
So
Counseling.
excuse me, so the victim awareness program was part of that 100-hour pre-release
Yeah.
curriculum?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you
Yeah.
haven't taken a standalone class that's victim awareness?
Yeah, they did have also a standalone class, yeah.
I'm a little confused. with that, but we'll
And
move.
in addition to the victims awareness under the 100-hour class.
When was that? Is there a date there? Did you finish that?
Not right here. I don't have my certificates with me either. And let's see,
Certificate for
anger management, let's see, let me see down here at the bottom. Anger management was April 14, 2004.
That's okay, that's okay. I understand. It has been a while at any rate.
Mhm.
Well, tell me what you learned in that victim awareness class.
Well, I learned to consider, other people, not only everybody that had effect behind the crimes they're charged with and everything that, most people wouldn't think about. And then, but, I've learned, a lot of consideration for their feelings, there's grief and everything that's associated with crime. And that more or less that they'll continue to feel those things for the rest of their lives because of the deaths of these Mr. Diafrin and Miss Odom. And I will always consider what they feel, and I know they feel anger, they feel all kinds of mixed emotions and everything that goes with it. And I share in that same mental capacity with them, although I'm sure that, I'm not saying that I'm doing anything that's gonna bring the people back. But I really always feel the same, similar, not exactly as they would feel, I'm sure, the grief that they feel.
Well, as I look at your, and I voted for you at your clemency hearing. I voted favorably for you then. And you, at that time, it was, commute your sentence to 99 years with parole eligibility after having served 42 years, and you served 43 years. One thing that strikes me is that you do have a good time date in April of 2029, but you will be released. There's no discretion there. You will be released. I wanted to ask you this, Mr. Tonby. You filed several appeals over the years. You've heard from the victims and victims' family and friends today about you don't seem to have any remorse for what you did. Do you remember at all what happened that night?
I can't, the things that they've mentioned there, I have no idea what went on, okay? I wasn't there. And, not to say that I didn't I loaned my truck out and the guy didn't bring it back, okay? I can't say what happened there. As far as what has been said is, if my conviction was based upon suspicion, conjecture, just a lot of things, the rumors were going around, the things that they put in the paper that about, like Miss Denise had read out of her newspaper at the pardon board hearing was not ever anything in the trial brought out as
Okay.
happening that way. No testimony, excuse me. And so like I say, I cannot say anything more. I cannot plead guilty today, just like I couldn't plead guilty to murder back in the day that I was charged and arraigned and everything.
I
because
understand that, sir.
It'd be just like,
we'll move on now, Mr. Tonby. I think we'll move on.
okay.
Talk to me today. Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Dixon, yeah.
Well, I noticed that you had said that you can't undo the crime. And then that immediately thereafter, you said that you were not gonna drink any more alcohol again because of the DWI accident. So why was there a DWI accident, but you didn't have anything to do with it?
DWI accident?
Yeah, do you remember saying anything about you're not gonna drink any alcohol again? And
Oh,
that's
well,
why
that,
you're sober?
I made that statement to a lady that came, at the direction of one of the detectives. When I got locked up, my mother had always told me that, "Not, son, don't go around bars or be drinking," okay? And when she came she came to me to talk about it, she said, "Why did you do it? Why did you do?" I said, "Well," I said, "I didn't do anything." I said, "But I'll guarantee you that I will never drink another drink as long as I live." Not because of what happened, but because what happened, if I hadn't been around bars or drinking, there would have been no suspicion of me at all of these accusations that were made of me. And let me just say this, and I don't want, I'm like I say, I'm not gonna state anything about my own opinion in this regard. But according to the Louisiana Supreme Court Justice Jack Watson Crozer, he studied my case closely. He said these particular words, this case is just as compatible with negligent homicide as it is with first degree murder. The circumstances surrounding Miss Odom is somewhat sketchy. However, as far as Mr. Dufresne is concerned, he's almost entirely silent. He said that, it's in the record. And in doing so, I'm not saying that he cleared me of anything. And he said that, but not the facts of the case, not proving that I was guilty, but because the facts of the case, whoever did this or whatever happened was just like, was negligent harm because there was no specific intent proven in the trial. And after they had held me, Mr. Harry Morrell, the DA, he recused himself. He got out because he claimed he was related to Mr. Leo Dufresne. And then when he did, they quashed the indictment, and the court ruled, they had at a hearing ruled that they had no probable cause for holding me, and they turned me loose. I did not run. It was not a case like that. Things like this, all these rumors were spread around because no one wanted to know what was going on, whatever it was.
I'm out, there was a trial, correct? There was a
Yes.
trial and found
Yes, ma'am.
guilty? All
Yes,
right,
ma'am.
so that's where we're at today.
Yes,
So we'll just fast forward from the fact that there was a trial and you were found guilty. Listen to everything that the victims had to say today, and I'm so glad that they were able to come and have their voice.
Yes,
Victim's voice is very, very important.
yes, yes, I understand.
A lot of times it's silent, like Miss Odom. You know, she doesn't have anybody here to speak in her behalf. And I do know, I listen to all your good works. It's in prison now. But, you know, Mr. Dufresne was doing those good works before his murder at 47 years old. He did it, and he didn't have to be put in jail in order to do it. That's just the type of person he was. He didn't have a switch that went off because, well, you were incarcerated. That's when you made this decision to start helping people and turn your life over to Christ, and that's a wonderful thing. But it's a wonderful thing also that you seem to now be a spiritual leader, because even in your family, you've led people to Christ. That's a wonderful thing. And I'm sure that in the prison, you've done the same. And working with hospice takes a special personality to do that. So maybe you found your calling indirectly. But Mr. Dufresne already had his calling, and it was stolen from him. It was his family, his loved ones in his community. And so they lost a wonderful person due to a heinous crime. That's all I've got to say.
I have a question. Who is it, the person that you loaned your truck to? You said you loaned your truck to someone. Who is that person?
Well, to clarify, hadn't been down here very long. I came down on a job with a guy to come down here to do some work at apartment complex in Mimosa Park. So I didn't know a lot of people, but everybody was friendly. Everybody accepted me, like Mr. Jack Allen, his family, Miss Norman and Nice Dufresne. All those people everything. Anyway, the fella that I loaned it to was in the bar. I seen him several times, guys. He wanted to go take a bar, went to transportation down the street. And I don't know what he was gonna do, but he said he's gonna be right back. Well, I just, without thinking, just let him have it. And, so I didn't know him personally. His name was Jim. I just know him from being around him and around in the bar. And like I say, he didn't bring it back. When he didn't come back, I was walking around trying to find the truck. It wasn't there. And, so I hitchhiked down to what they call the Green Door Lounge, where my sister, my lady friend's sister lived at the time, or worked at the time, and had her call Juanita to come and pick me up. And when we left there, we went to the Mr. Captain Leo's restaurant and we ate. And then she took me to the camp where I was staying at in Bayou Gosh. And they woke me up at 7 o'clock in the morning and asked me to come down to the station to ask the questions. So I went. And as far as anything that I knew, I don't know anything about. I can't tell. If I lied to you today, it would be just like selling my soul to the devil, taking the mark of the beast, and going straight to hell. If I lied to you today, and if you asked me to lie to you, I couldn't do it to save my life. I'm not going to lie to it. If I knew anything about it, I would tell you. Yes, sir.
That you answered that question. So nobody in the bar knew who this Peter guy was? Did you help the police try to find him? I don't understand that part of the investigation.
They did.
I
don't understand it.
What happened there? Nobody knew him. It was like a mystery guy.
When they arrested me, they closed the case. And they didn't do any more investigation until my lawyer done some work, and then they opened it back up in August of that year. That was, it happened in April. They opened it back up in August, and then they redone the paperwork. October, they turned me loose because they didn't have any evidence on me. That's really why they turned me loose. And then I went back to Oklahoma. I didn't run, and I come back when they re-indicted me. I came back and turned myself in. And that's the gist of the situation. There was rumors going around, the mafia was involved. The judge had to get a vest because he was afraid somebody was going to kill him. And so all these things were going on. I had no idea what was going on. I'm just new in the parish. I don't know anything about that. I had a lot of acquaintances that I thought were my friends, but they wasn't really. I mean, they was all right, but I never had anything, no beef with nobody in that parish. It was all friendly to me.
All right. And my last question is an obvious one, but I just want to hear it from you. Are you claiming today that you were wrongfully accused and you're innocent of this charge?
I'm not claiming, I'm stating the truth. I cannot lie. I cannot accept responsibility for any good or any bad, whatever it is, because if I do, like I say, I'm selling my soul to the devil, and I'll never reach heaven.
Okay. You answered that question good enough. Thank you. So that's all the questions from the board. Are we ready to vote? All right, Ms. Renata, you will be the lead voter.
Yes. Mr. Tonabee, we're not really here to determine your guilt or innocence. We accept what happened in court. You were tried by a jury. You were found guilty. And I'm aware of all the appeals because you put all that in, we have all that information in the information we reviewed. As I said, I voted for you at your pardon hearing. And none of those facts have changed, that you still maintain your Class A trustee status. You have a low risk score. You haven't had any write-ups even since then. But when your sentence was commuted, that was relief in itself. And further relief is that you have a good time date coming up. So based on all the testimony I've heard today and this very strong opposition that we see in the record, and there's lots of it, and that which we've heard here today, and the proximity of your good time date. Now, I know your age, and I know that's still several years away, but my vote today is to deny based on the relief that you've already been granted.
Ms. Stapleton?
My vote today is gonna be tonight to deny, this is my reasons. Because yes, you were found guilty by a jury of your peers. And it was the heinous nature and severity of the crime, law enforcement opposition, and victim opposition. Victim opposition, I want to make sure I say this right, because if you see my name, it says board member and it says victims advocate. So, victims' voices are very important to me. We all want to hear it, but part of our mission statement and our vision, as outlined in Louisiana Board of Pardons and Parole guides, it says that, to serve the citizens of Louisiana, addressing the needs of the victims. There's a lot of components to it, but this is one of them, and ensure crime victims have a voice in the decision-making process. So the crime victims had their voice today too. But I think you're doing a wonderful work right where you're at. And like I said earlier, prison may be your calling. And your victim, he had a calling too, and that was taken from him. So based upon all of that, the heinous nature and severity of the crime, law enforcement opposition, victim opposition, my vote for you today is to
And Mr. Tonnery, I'm going to concur with my colleagues for the same reasons. So as of today, your parole application has been denied. We'll conclude our business with Mr. Tonnery. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. The Committee on Parole is called back to order. Time is 10:09, and we are still at Louisiana State Penitentiary. My name is Danny Barra, serving as your chairman today. And my colleagues on today's panel are Ms. Stapleton to my right, to my left, and Ms. Renata to my right. Mr. Jones, would you please state your full name and DOC number for the record?
Yes, sir. My name is Isaiah Jones Jr. Number is 132331.
I'm going to give you a brief explanation of the process. I'm going to give you the first chance to speak. But before that, I'm going to read some information into the record and ask you to verify.
Yes, sir.
Then I'm going to give you the first chance to speak. Then we'll let your attorney speak. And we'll allow 3 people in support and 3 people in opposition if we have them. And then we'll conduct the parole interview. The case has been assigned to Ms. Stapleton, so she's going to ask you the first questions today and cast the first vote. So let's begin. Today we have for parole consideration Isaiah Jones Jr., DOC number 132331, who's a first felony offender who was convicted of second-degree murder at a trial by jury on April 20th, 1990, and on April 30th, 1990, was sentenced to serve life in prison without the benefit of probation, parole, or suspension of sentence in Iberville Parish. Your parole eligibility date is August 1st, 2021. Your good time date is October 24th, 2037, and your full term date is March 5th, 2088. Does that information sound correct to you?
Yes, sir.
All right. So here it is. You get the first question. What did you do to cause your incarceration, and why do you think we should release you on parole?
What I did to come here was I was at a bar one night and drinking, smoking. I mean, out having a so-called good time, and before I knew it, it was drug dealing. I was off into drug dealing, and from there, it was a drug dispute between me and Mr. Lewis. And after that, I left, went to the house, and around about 3:30 a.m. or 4 o'clock a.m. that morning, I heard a scuffling in the house, and I got out of bed, and I seen in the kitchen was Lewis, my mom, and my stepdad, and then it was scuffling. When I came in and I seen what was going on, and I panicked, and I ended up picking up a knife and jugged Lewis, and which I am truly sorry for what I done. And after that, it was like, wow, I seen Lewis run out the house. When he ran out the house, and my mom told me, see, it was just a bad dispute. I mean, I was full of drugs and alcohol. I didn't mean it at all. I just lost it. I was drunk and on drugs.
You should be granted.
All right,
And-
let's get there. Now, what have you done to convince us to let you go?
Right now, why I should be released is that at one point in my life, I was like unmanageable. I was powerless, very uncertain of what may take place with me the next few minutes. And that's when I end up stabbing Mr. Lewis Tillman. I truly, deeply apologize to the Tillman family and for all those that I hurted in the process of it. And at this moment, I sit before you a changed person. And from all the required classes that I have taken, it has bettered me to become the person that I am today, to be able to be released back into society as a better person, and knowing all the classes that I took to help me along the way. Also that I am very fit now because I can think better, function better upon any kind of pressure or whatever. I can function better. I am a changed person now. From the life that I did when I took Mr. Tillman's life, I would never be the same person like that again. Right now, I'm ready, truly ready for society from everything I have learned and the skill setting in this prison that have taught me to become the man that I am today. I am a better person, think better. The classes help me in numerous of ways, and I am truly ready to be returned back into society.
Now we're gonna give Ms. Hutchinson a chance to speak.
Okay. And it's my understanding I won't be able to reserve my comments for the end today.
You wanna wait till last? I'll let you go last.
Thank you, Mr. Byron.
All right. How about the warden? Can you add anything about his conduct in prison? Or any comments you might have to him?
Yes, sir. Since being incarcerated since 1991 over here at Louisiana State Penitentiary, he has became a Class A trustee. He's got a total of 13 disciplinary reports. He has completed anger management and 100 hours of programs. Thinking for the change. He received a GED in 1995. He recently completed trauma healing, and he is currently enrolled in victim awareness. And if it's granted parole, I recommend that he complete that course before then. Thank you.
And which course we talking about?
Victim awareness.
All right. Today we have several people in support wanting to speak and several people just watching and not wanting to speak. So we'll start with the speakers first. We have Mr. Kerry Myers from the Parole Project.
Thank you. Good morning, Kerry Myers with Louisiana Parole Project. We're here to support Mr. Jones through this process, and should this board grant his release today, Mr. Jones will come into our residential program. While with us, he will participate fully in the programming that includes technology, financial management, consumer skills, social norms, things that someone who has spent 36 years incarcerated will absolutely need to properly reintegrate into society. We are confident that based on Mr. Jones's record and his work in prison, that he's no risk to reoffend. But what he does need is a support system and mentoring and coaching that Parole Project can provide. He'll have case management for a minimum of 1 year. Mr. Jones will also be able to continue to get support from Parole Project whenever he would need. While he's with us also, he'll receive an evaluation through our social worker. And we know that whatever recommendations for any follow-up treatment that would be needed, that Mr. Jones will make sure that Mr. Jones has access to any recommendations. His record is I think speaks for itself. He says 1 disciplinary infraction in the last 16 years. That was 8 years ago. He is a trustee. He's completed collision repair as a vocational program. He's at age 59. He's still very much employable. He's got a support system once he leaves Parole Project with his family. We would just ask this board to consider those things and grant his parole today.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer. We also have Malcolm Matthews, a friend in support, who's wanting to speak today. Go ahead, Malcolm.
Yes, I'm a facilitator for emailing sermon outlines weekly from our Safe Harbor Church. This is a church out of Brentwood, Tennessee. I myself live in West Monroe, Louisiana. There's an active ministry with this church with prisoners primarily in Angola, Wade Correctional, and a couple of other places. And this is for inmates who request to be on our mailing list and study these lessons. In May of 2023, Ike, Mr. Jones, through Mr. Milton Williams, our mutual friend, asked to be included on that list. And since that time, Ike and I have corresponded almost weekly. generally on the week's lesson subject, but occasionally on other topics. We have also managed to meet and visit some at the couple of rodeos that have taken place since 2023. And I've always enjoyed seeing and being greeted by Ike. I know him mainly as a brother in Christ and consider him a dear friend. I never knew him in the past troubled times of his life that he's described here. But my impressions of Ike now are that he is a man whose character has developed into one who appreciates life, blessings from above, and his fellow mankind. I find, I've heard that he has support from his victim's family, and I just find that to be profound and touching. That they have made the decision to find forgiveness and support for Ike. And our prayers going forward will be for them as well as Ike, and that all of us involved in his life and with each other can move forward positively in the days that remain for us and find ways to love and serve those around us. I believe Ike is completely ready to do that. He has a lot of positive wisdom and character traits to contribute to his family, friends, and society. And we as a church who have supported him for the last year and a few months plan to continue in contact and support upon his release. And we pray that that will happen. We definitely want to stay in contact. So I respectfully urge the board to vote unanimously to approve his parole. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have Miss Clintina Jones Williams, a sister in support and wanting to speak.
This is on. Good morning. Morning. Ladies and gentlemen of the parole. We are here today in strong support of my brother, Isaiah Jones. Throughout his 36 years, we have stood by him, witnessing his growth from a young boy into the man who sits before you today. As Isaiah navigates the Louisiana Parole Project, we remain committed to supporting him every step of the way. With my background and experience in counseling, I will ensure he has access to the necessary resources to help him cope and successfully transition back into society. I would also like to take a moment to express our heartfelt gratitude to the Simmons family. Your kindness, support, and forgiveness shown to Isaiah means the world to us. Wanda, we love you, and we definitely appreciate you so much for being here for us and us. We couldn't be here without you. We couldn't be. So thank you for your loving and forgiving heart, and to the rest of us. Thank you. Throughout the years, Isaiah has shown resilience and a desire for positive change, and we believe he is ready for the next chapter. Thank you for considering his case and the progress he's made us. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Miss Wanda Thompson. She's a relative of the victim and in support.
I'm here today on behalf of my family, the Tilton family, to express support for Isaiah's release. It has been 36 years, and we're ready to have him come home as well to be his family, his children, grandchildren, and we believe that he has changed. We managed to have a meeting with Isaiah through the victim offender dialogue. And we believe that his apology to us was sincere. It wasn't something made up that he would say just to get released. We didn't feel that. We felt that he meant it from his heart because we felt it in our hearts. My mother could not be here today, but she had a message she wanted me to give to the board. She has long been ready for Isaiah to be released, from this incarceration and to come home and be with his family, because my brother and Isaiah were friends, not enemies. This was the most unfortunate accident
incident for both of our families. And we don't take it lightly. We paid a heavy price, but so has I said as well. So the Christ in us know that we have to forgive him in order for us to be forgiven for our sins. That's our big thing. And I'm not asking that it be yours, but it is ours. And so, so we believe that forgiveness is the way we all move forward. And we want heaven to be our home one day. We can't get there dragging him down through the mud. That's not our intention. I also have a message from my mom who could not be here today. She's just not well, like her. She's in a lot of pain from arthritis and failed back service, but she did want me to convey to the parole board her desire to have Isaiah come home, and she would like you all to release him today. I know that there's a process, but she doesn't know that there's a process. She thinks that after this is over and everyone agrees that his family should be able to just drive home. And we really wish that were possible, but I'm telling y'all that is her honest to God feeling. And she also wanted me to ask you to convey to Isaiah that he is in her prayers. She prays for him all the time. And her word is, Lord, that child, I want that child home. So I'm asking you on behalf of the Tillman family to please vote yes. It's been long enough. We've all paid a dear price. And it's time for us to start to begin the healing. The healing, right, y'all? We had to get together and live the way we didn't come from a community that keeps us separated. We weren't raised by families that keep us separated. So, and like I said, my brother and I said we're very good friends. And if you knew my brother, Louis Jr., he was not a person that holds grudges at all. I believe in my heart, if my brother were here today, he would be asking me to let his friend go home. And that's just honestly how I feel. So my family's on board with this. We wanted to help initiate this. If we committed to it, we wanted to see it all the way through. So again, I'm asking you on behalf of the family of Bruce Tillman Jr., please vote unanimously to let this man come home to his family, his children, his grandkids.
Thank you very much. We also have several other people in support, either on Zoom, at headquarters, or at Louisiana State Penitentiary, and I'm gonna just list those for the record. We have Wilbert Keller, a family member, Dorian James, a son, Huey Baptiste, a cousin, Don Mowinski Walker, hope I got that close, a cousin, Cole Jones, a sister, Palanza Brooks, a sister, Narsham Bruce, medical worker, Isaiah Jones Senior, his father, Sandra Boyette, a victim, Julia Jones, mother, and those all are in support but not speaking. So we all, in opposition, we don't have anybody here, but we do have some opposition from the pre-parole investigation. The district attorney is opposed and the sheriff is opposed. Okay, and now Ms. Hutchinson, we'll let you go ahead.
Thank you, board. As the committee knows, I represent clients before you often, usually several times a month. And rarely am I ever able to present a picture as complete, humbling, and inspiring as this one. And this is honestly because of the tremendous step the Tillman family took, in which you heard from Ms. Wanda Thompson, in them initiating the victim offender dialogue. You see, Isaiah was already doing well by most standards by 2013 before he met with Mr. Tillman's sisters. He had completed his GED, and if you look at his institutional record, which I have in page 6 of my brief, he had really aged out of his reckless behavior. He had earned some significant training. He had done the auto collision and repair, I think the first level of welding, and he had done library assistance and legal counsel to death row. He had done DOC programming to address anger management issues. So he was really already on the right track before that meeting, but I would be remiss not to highlight and spotlight what I had the absolute pleasure in learning from Isaiah. And that is how the power of forgiveness pushed him and carried him and inspired him to continue on and truly be a better man, a brother, a father, and a friend. And I think that's evident by the amount of people that are there in support, right? He bettered himself and his family embraced him and he worked hard. His humble, happy, and forgiving heart can only be the mirror of what he received from the Tillman family. He went on to take more programs like Thinking for a Change and Inside Out Dad, where he can be a better parent through even though he was incarcerated, right? And so today we humbly ask the committee to see Isaiah for what the Tillman family saw back in 2013 and what's present today, and that he's a rehabilitated man and a man that takes responsibility for the hurt and harm he caused. A man who poses no threat to society and who's been trusted within the prison and even outside the prison walls. One of the certificates in the brief is actually for doing the roughing work at the headquarters where you all are right now. So I mean, he's worked outside the gates. And a forgiven man, right? Who's being welcomed home by not only the extended family you see in front of you and here with us here, but also, as you've heard, he's been welcomed back by the Tillman family. This is an opportunity to acknowledge restorative and redemptive justice today. And so we pray that you see Isaiah as the man he has spent 36 years building himself up to be, and grant him parole with any conditions deemed necessary. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the case has been assigned to Ms. Stapleton, so you go ahead and ask the first question.
Good morning, sir. Do you want me to call you Isaiah or Mr. Jones? What's your favor?
Isaiah,
Okay, Isaiah, all right. Well, boy, you do have a lot of support. You do have a lot of support. So, you're a fortunate man.
thank you.
Listen, I wanted to ask you something. I'm just gonna get into the crux of the situation. When you were talking, you said that there was a fight. He came to your house and, it was a drug deal gone bad. He was accusing you, selling him bad drugs or whatever it was. But anyway, you said you stabbed him and he ran out. So he was alive when he left your house. Is that correct?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
tell me what happened. When did he die?
It is your, they said when they took him to the house, made it to his house, then they took him in the ambulance to the hospital. That's
Huh?
where he ended up dying in the hospital.
So he made it to his house.
Yes, ma'am.
Did y'all live close to each other or did he drive over to your house?
So we live right around the corner from each other.
So he walked over or something?
Yeah.
He walked over and then he walked back home and then they found him injured and then they called an ambulance and he died at the hospital, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. How many stab wounds did he have? Do you know?
To my understanding, I really know it was one that I knew of.
Okay. I was just wondering, they weren't able to find the police report that happened at that time. So, there was some holes in everything. So, I think that's the best I can do with those questions. Your GED, that was very important for you to move forward in life. Your GED, you got that. And now let me ask you, if you were to leave out of there, what job would you pursue? Because I heard him say collision repair and then a welding. What is it that you think you'd pursue if you went to an employer? Which type of employer would you go to?
I would go back to welding.
Welding, okay. That's an excellent profession and it's in great demand. I've got some nephews and uncles that are welders. Okay, now let me ask you this. Why are you so late taking the victim awareness course? What's going on there?
Well, because at first they said by me having the victim dialogue that I didn't really need it. So now that it has enrollment in it, and that's why I didn't get into it early because I had to took the victim dialogue.
Well, since the victim dialogue has come up so many times, what caused you to want to be with the victims and talk to them and everything. Tell me what your perspective on that was.
Well, at first, when they came to me and let me know that the victim wanted to meet with me, I was honestly kind of afraid because I didn't know how it was going to turn out.
Right.
And the two ladies that was over it came and spoke with me for a week and explained to me how things was gonna go. And then they asked me, was I willing to do it? And I said, yeah, I would do it. And when we did it, the first time I met with the Tillman sister, it was like, it was so hurting because I didn't think it was gonna go that way.
Yes.
I mean, they took and they accepted me. They forgave me for what I did. I never had that in my life. And they took me in and told me they loved me and forgive me for what I did to their brother. And through that, that made me become a better man, even in prison. I never ever experienced anything like that for the victim family to take and forgive me and accept me after the hurt that I caused their family. And from that point, I didn't have no other choice but to do better by me. I wanted to become a better man from that. Because if they can forgive me, I can forgive myself and move forward. That's why I'm so thankful of the Tillman family, because they didn't have to, but they did it for me. And now I am the man I am today through what they helped me with. And I appreciate it and I love them for it.
It's a powerful program. I graduated from that program. I was a facilitator. And the funny thing was, like you said, you were first afraid. The offender that I met with, one of his questions to me was, they're not allowed to hit me, are they? And I said, no, you can't do that. You know, he was gonna do it, but they didn't want to be hit, you know, so it is, but, and we normally, this is not something that's brought up, but since it is, it's all over the place in your record, so I was gonna bring it up and find out what you thought about it. Now, you did hear the warden. He would like for you, well, no, he requests that you finish that victim awareness program before any release. You heard that.
Yes, ma'am.
And you heard the opposition, DA and sheriff, but of course you, on the other hand, you have strong victim support, the Louisiana Parole Project, but you got strong family support too. Those things are very important. And you served 36 years, you're 59 years old, and you're gonna get out anyway. Am I correct? Of 2027, Mr. Knox, is that correct? Did I hear that?
2037.
2037, okay, because I was going to say, gee whiz. Okay, well, all right. All right, well, that's the end of my questions.
Ms. Renata, do you have any questions? I don't have any questions. Are we ready to vote?
Can I, if I may, I know, Ms. Stapleton had asked about employment. So, Louisiana Parole Project has an employment enhancement department that should be able to bridge his certification in welding from here to the outside. And his stepbrother has talked to his employer about employment. So we do have that in place. It is in the brief, but it's kind of towards the end. So I did want to make sure you all were aware that we are proactively working to bridge it once he gets out so that he can begin employment immediately.
Oh, that's wonderful. Okay, thank you very much for that information.
You're welcome.
All right, Ms. Stapleton, case is assigned to you.
Okay, well, today, because of all the things I just stated, that you have the strong victim support, the strong family support. You have a future with your welding. I don't believe you're no longer a threat to society, but sometimes that's the case anyway, but the family. I mean, I read, and I think it's important that part of our mission is that we address the needs of the victim, and then also that we ensure crime victims have a voice in the decision-making process. So based upon that too, that wouldn't be the only thing if I thought you were a threat to society or something. But because of that, my vote today is to grant your parole with the condition that you do finish the victim awareness program.
Renata?
Mr. Jones, well, and to the Tillman family, thanks for being here. You were here in 2019 and just listening to what Isaiah said, you know, Isaiah changed your family's life forever. But you changed his life forever. And here we are today. Isaiah, I voted for you back in 2019, long time ago. And for the same reasons I'm voting for you today, I vote to grant you parole to the parole project plan after you finish victim awareness.
Mr. Jones. I usually vote against a case like this. Mr. Hutchinson and Mr. Myers can tell you, all day long, I vote no with strong victim opposition. But today, I'm gonna vote to grant you parole. And I'm gonna warn you that should you commit any violation whatsoever, I will easily revoke your parole for the 99-year sentence. So don't even think you can smoke a joint or hang around somebody who's smoking a joint or anything. You go out there and you prove to us that what you're telling us today is true, and you will have a successful, free rest of your life. You go out there and meet any old buddies and do old things, you're gonna be right back where you started from, and I'm gonna be the first no vote. But today, your parole has been granted. Congratulations.
Good luck.
Thank you, board.
Oh, man.
All right, the Committee on Parole is called to order. Time now is 10:51 a.m. And we're still at headquarters, and the remote location is still at Louisiana State Penitentiary. My colleagues today on the panel are Ms. Stapleton to my left and Ms. Renatza to my right. We're working on a case of David Foy. Mr. Foy, would you please introduce yourself and give us your DOC number?
David Forrest, 75309.
All right, I'm gonna give you a brief explanation of the process. And it's gonna happen like this. I'll read some information into the record and ask you to verify it. Then I'm gonna give you a chance to speak and tell us what you did to cause your incarceration and why you feel you should be released today. Then I'll ask the warden to give us some information. We'll do public comments, 3 supporters, and 3 in opposition. We'll have the attorney statement, and then we'll conduct the interview. The case has been assigned to Ms. Renatza, who's going to take the lead on the questions. So let's begin. Today we have for parole consideration, David Wade Foy, DOC number 75309, who's a second felony offender who was convicted of murder by a jury on January 20th, 1972 in Calcasieu Parish. On February 1st, 1972, you were sentenced to death. Then on 6/11/73, was resentenced to life at hard labor to run consecutive to the armed robbery charge that you had pending in Calcasieu docket number 216909. And on December 13th, 2023, you received a commutation of sentence to 99 years with immediate parole eligibility. The parole eligible date was 8/1/21. You're not eligible for good time. Your full term date is July 7th, 2027. Does that information sound correct to you, Mr. Foy?
Yes, sir.
All right. So you get the first question. Tell us what you did to get yourself incarcerated and why do you think we should let you go?
Oh, okay. Mr. Lockdown, your brother,
You,
Larry.
I killed Mr. Keller, Sylvester Keller, in an escape attempt. I'm remorseful for Mr. Keller's death. I realized how much I hurt him and his family. And I ask God daily for forgiveness. I can't imagine the pain and suffering that I caused his family. I've been living with this remorse for 53 years. And I asked him and his family for mercy.
Warden, do you have anything that you'd like to say regarding his progress or his comments there? I mean, his behavior there?
Yes, sir. How y'all doing again? He is a Class B trustee. He's completed anger management, 100 hours. I would recommend that if he would be granted parole, he attend and take the victim awareness class.
Thank you. No. Today we have in support a lengthy list of people. So we'll start with your friend, Susan Myers. Ms. Myers, go ahead and tell us what you gotta say regarding Mr. Foy.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Susan Myers, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today on behalf of David Foy. I'm an attorney who worked with Mr. Foy a couple of years ago, but I'm here today in my capacity as his friend. But I would like to tell you a little bit about my professional background because I think it's relevant here. For the first 14 years of my career as an attorney, I worked exclusively with people with disabilities who, because of their disabilities, needed help navigating systems and policies and processes that sometimes overwhelmed them. or shut them out entirely. You know from the materials you've received that Mr. Foy suffered a brain injury some years ago, and the injury affected and to this day continues to affect his ability to focus on immediate tasks and his short-term memory, among some other problems that it causes him. But I see in David Foy something I saw in my clients all the time in those years, and that's a determination to reach a goal despite barriers, even when reaching that goal requires taking a different path. Mr. Foy's goal has been, yes, to return home to his family, but more importantly than that, his goal has been rehabilitation and redemption for his past actions. Those goals will remain a work in progress for the rest of his life. Rehabilitation and redemption are not something that I think that any of us, no matter our circumstances, ever actually achieve once and for all. But Mr. Foy knows this, and he speaks of it often. His disabilities do not affect his understanding of his place in the world or the actions that brought him to where he is today. In, I think, every conversation Mr. Foy and I have had, he has brought up unprompted Mr. Kelly, his victim, and Mr. Kelly's family and his own family. He tells me of his sorrow and his remorse for the pain he caused and his work toward redemption through faith. He talks about his siblings and especially his mother, whom he hopes to see again. Mr. Foy's journey to where he is today is perhaps not typical of others you see reflected before you in the packets you receive at the board, but his path has been just as determined as those of others, and I believe just as, if not more, successful. He has worked and he continues to work hard and faithfully toward rehabilitation. He is remorseful and driven by faith. Whatever he was and did in the past, Mr. Foy is today a kind, humble man. Not only do I believe that Mr. Foy is ready and able to reintegrate into his community, but I truly believe that any community would be better for his presence. I hope you will grant his application for parole, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right. The next person we'll go to is Mr. Kerry Myers from the Parole Project.
Thank you and good morning, Terry Myers with Louisiana Parole Project. We're here to support Mr. Foy. We've supported Mr. Foy through his clemency process, and we continue to support him should Mr. Foy be granted parole today. Parole Project is very uniquely suited to help him, particularly connect him based on his age and the time served. 71 years old, 53 years served. He was 18 when he committed this crime. And so there's a lot of living that Mr. Foy does not understand. And additionally, based on his age, we'll be able to connect him to all the necessary and important services that he'll need to establish himself, to make sure he has medical care, to make sure he has income. He'll also have the mentorship of Parole Project staff, a case manager who will guide him through, particularly through those initial steps. Someone who served 53 years is coming into a world they cannot recognize. And we'll be there to make sure step by step, Mr. Foy has that mentorship and his ability to guide him and help him in his ability to function in this world. In addition to that, well, first of all, let me say he'll stay with us as long as needed to get that to get comfortable in the world. Once he leaves us, he does have additional support systems, and we'll make sure we continue to follow up with Mr. Foy when he's with his long-term residents to help him should he encounter any additional problems or obstacles, which we would expect again after serving such a long period of time. Just that support, that mentorship that he'll need. Based on his years of incarceration, his age, and the simply the fact that he was 18 years old when he committed this crime. We asked this board to consider all these factors today and the support systems that he has, and the circumstances as they were at that time, and granted his parole today.
Thank you. All right, next we have Miss Maggie Eubanks with LSU Law Clinic, wanting to speak in support.
Mr. Barr, Robert Lancaster with LSU Law Clinic representing David Foy today. Ms. Eubanks is prepared as a second-year student to give a statement of support. If there are additional supporters speaking, we would request that she be allowed to speak at the conclusion of those additional supporters.
Okay, we have one other supporter, but I don't, that's highlighted to speak, but staff told me he wasn't. Larry Foy, is Larry Foy ready to speak? Yes. All right, Larry Foy.
Yes,
go
I'm
ahead.
ready to speak.
All right, go ahead, Larry Foy.
Yeah, as Mr. Myers just said, my brother was 18 years old at the time. He was the original reason he went to prison was robbery. He was just being stupid. He was trying to get money for his pregnant girlfriend at the time. Unfortunately, after being sent to minimum security prison, he again tried to see his born child, his recently born child at the time, and in doing so, he committed the act of not intentionally killing Mr. Kelly. And since then, he's been really remorseful for that, especially after he himself was attacked and had no real recollection or understanding of what he had done. He had to literally rethink or literally had to review, research those things that he was committed, what he was in jail for prior to his attack. Since David's attack, prior to his attack, he found the Lord, and since his attack, he continues to love the Lord, and he's continued to try and be an example for those around him, just to redeem. We talked about redemption and just to try and better himself for the crime that was committed. Anyway, since then, David has done the necessary steps that he had to do while there, as far as completing his GED and other things. He is very, knowing my brother from the time he found the Lord and prior to, he's a very changed person. He's changed. He has a hard time recalling and recollecting a lot of things, but he took the opportunity to, I want to say, investigate or research is the word I'm looking for, what he actually did and to the Kelly family. And since then he's reached out and he's tried to do better. And I believe that if you allow him to come reintegrate himself back in society, he can be used in the programs at the church and different things where he can speak to youth and have them understand the consequences of decisions made, whether what those consequences might be later on down the road. David has read and studied up on just the the actions and consequences of of his actions and stuff like that there, and consequences and actions of things that people do. So he's ready to step forth and be an example to those young individuals and help them to better understand what it is that how to take time to breathe and think rather than just react toward situations and circumstances that's going on in their lives. It is my request that the parole board grant him his parole so that he might be able to spend the last few years that my mother might have here on this earth. She's 98 years old. She suffered an aneurysm while visiting him, later a stroke, and now she's bedridden. And just giving him the opportunity to spend some time with his mom. We know that what happened to the Kelly family could never be, we could never change that or replace what they've lost. But I'm praying, and I pray that the Lord will show them forgiveness or touch their heart that they might be able to forgive and allow David to be re-entered into society. Thank you for this opportunity to speak.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Lancaster, you and Ms. Eubanks are the last two on the list to speak.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Barra. My name is Maggie Eubanks. I'm a second-year law student at LSU, and I'm very grateful for this opportunity to speak on Mr. David Foy's behalf. I'm participating in the Parole and Reentry Clinic under Professor Lancaster's supervision. And it's been a joy and an honor getting to know David these past few months and getting to know his story. He comes before you today after a grant of clemency from Governor John Bel Edwards, and he was successful in his application for clemency after he demonstrated to the board the same things that I believe that he will demonstrate to you today. 53 years ago, David was a different person. He was an 18-year-old who was young, who was impulsive, and who never thought through their decisions before he made them. But today, David comes before you asking for parole as a patient, trustworthy, and kind 71-year-old man. And he has worked the past 53 years of his life to rehabilitate himself, and he has gained Class B trustee status, which he has held without a write-up since 2016. David is also at an extremely low risk for recidivism. He has a low Tiger score, and when you couple that with his increased age and medical issues, it displays that David is no longer a threat to reoffend. When David first got to LSP, he struggled to adapt, and he was angry, and he was frustrated, and he believed that he would never go back out the gates that he entered. And so he got frequent write-ups for fighting and disobedience. But slowly, David learned the importance of reaching out to the wardens and the importance of slowing down and thinking before he acted. But it wasn't until David was attacked in 2016 that he truly began to change his life. David was severely attacked where he suffered several brain bleeds and injuries, and he had a hospital stay of over 7.5 months. And when David got back to LSP, he could have just given up, but instead he chose to take this as his second chance, and he committed his life to his fate. He learned the importance and understood the gravity of his actions and the loss and the sorrow that he had caused. He now prays every day for Mr. Keller's family and for his own family. And he prays with those around him, inmates and wardens alike, often encouraging them to pray with him. David not only began to exhibit an outward change, but he was showing signs that he had a true spiritual change. And he is no longer a threat, evidenced by the fact that he has not had a write-up since 2015. And when David got back to LSP after his attack, he wanted to try and take classes and certifications, but it was hard for him to focus and remember what he needed to succeed during those classes. So instead, David began volunteering his time with the sick and elderly inmates at Camp F. Two men, specifically Mr. Woodcock and Mr. Witten, are wheelchair bound, and David does what he can to help bathe them, take them to chow, and ensure that they are well taken care of and protected despite their age and illness. David understands what it's like to be vulnerable in that state after his attack, and he wanted to ensure that these two men would never have to feel the same way that he did. Upon release, David has support of the Louisiana Parole Project and his family. If granted parole today, upon his immediate release, he will stay with the Louisiana Parole Project, where they will help him get set up with Medicare and SNAP benefits and teach him any of the necessary skills that he needs to thrive on the outside. During his first year upon reentry, they will also provide him with counseling, mentorship, and supervision to ensure that he is confident and secure in his reentry plan. After his time living with the Parole Project, David hopes to return to his family in New Orleans, where they are ready and they are eager to support him with anything that he may need upon reentry. David also has the support of his home church, LaHarpe Thompson United Methodist Church, where the pastor there has not only offered support to David as a spiritual mentor, but has also offered David a job as a custodian. This job will provide David with an outlet to work in a supervised and loving manner surrounded by his congregation and provide him with the confidence to know that he can provide for himself on the outside. David also has an adjusted good time release date coming up in 3 years. He has significant resources available to him today, and he has done all the necessary programming to ensure that he will do well on the outside. In addition, the parole committee has the opportunity to begin imposing any conditions that they deem necessary on David's release today. David feels the burden of his remorse and regret every day, and he knows that there is no restitution that can be made for Mr. Keller's life, and that the only thing that he can do is to ensure that he never repeats the same mistakes that he made 53 years ago. I ask this honorable committee to consider the previously stated reasons and respectfully request that you grant David Foy's parole. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lancaster?
I have no comments at this time, Mr. Barra. If there is anything at the end, right before the vote that I can clarify, I'll do so, but I don't have anything to add at this point. I think Ms. Eubanks summarized things quite well.
You did. Thank you all. We also have some supporters who are not with us at LSP or on Zoom who are not willing to speak, and I would like to put them in the record. We have Adrienne Hutchinson from an attorney with the Parole Project, I believe. We have Betty Grayson, a sister, in support. We have Carolyn Young, a sister, in support. We have Hannah Lewis, LSU Law Clinic, in support. And we have Norris Henderson with First 72 in support. In opposition, we don't have anyone here to speak, but we do have opposition from law enforcement documented in the pre-parole investigation, and that shows that the judge is no longer on the bench, so we have no comment from him. The district attorney's office is opposed, quoting, "He killed a man while escaping from prison." The sheriff is opposed with a quote, "He is a threat to the community." The chief of police is opposed with no comment. The attorney general's office is opposed due to the serious nature of the crime. Ms. Renata, the case is assigned to you, so you go ahead and start with the first question.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Foy.
Morning.
Nice to see you again. I saw you at your pardon hearing in 2021,
Yes, ma'am.
and I voted for you then.
Yes, ma'am.
So what struck me as I reviewed your record in preparation for today, I wrote that you've done 53 years of your life sentence. Mr. Sylvester Keller was 71 years old at the time you killed him. That's the same age you are now?
Yes, ma'am.
So in retrospect, tell us how you feel about that. I noticed that it doesn't appear that you've taken any victim awareness classes, or at least my record didn't reflect it. I'd like to know what you think about that now.
I didn't, excuse me, would you?
Mr. Keller was the same age as you are now. Have you done any reflecting on that?
Yes, ma'am. I tried to do the best I can. I'm very remorseful for what happened. If I could change it, I would give my life, Mr. Keller's life. I didn't necessarily mean to kill him. I was impulsive, I was immature, and I just acted off reflex. He startled me. And I did, you know, I took his life. I'm sorry. I can't change that.
No, you can't. I do, Mr. Byra, I told you about the opposition, which was present at the time of your hearing. After an extensive search, they were unable to locate, members of Mr. Keller's family, so there's no expressed opposition from his family. I know what happened. I have the record. I reviewed it carefully. And I stand by my previous vote. I'm going to defer to my colleagues for their questions because they weren't on that pardon
Yes,
board.
ma'am.
Ms. Stapleton, you got a question?
Yeah, I had noticed the same thing Ms. Renata did, that it was an irony that you're 71 years old, the same age your victim was 71 years old, but she's covered that. But I thought that was ironic that we were seeing that today. I wanted to ask someone else possibly. The warden recommended that you complete the victim awareness class, but I keep hearing you've got a brain injury and short-term memory. Would he even be able to take the victim awareness class and pass it, go through it? Is that something he's capable of doing right now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes.
yes, okay, that's what I did want to know that. And I think that was yeah, that's my only question about that, yes.
With the brain injury?
I'm finished.
I don't have any question. Are we ready to go? Ms. Renata, go ahead.
Yes. Mr. Foy, I voted for you in March of 2021. I stand by that vote. My vote is going to be to grant conditionally after you complete the victim awareness class. And the basis for my vote is, the age at the time of your crime, the age you are now, the length of incarceration, you have a low risk low risk score. And frankly, you would get out anyway in 3 years. So you have a good plan with the parole project.
Wow.
I would add a condition, should you be granted today, you do not go back to Calhoun Parish.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Stapleton?
Today I'm going to have to deny because there's strong opposition from law enforcement, because at the time it was an escape. And I know you said that the man startled you, but the records show that you actually went to the garage and y'all were talking, that he asked you not to put him in the trunk of the vehicle, that he gave the keys to you, and that you stabbed him, you said on the right side, and it pierced his heart. So the records reflect, and that was, I'm assuming from your statement as to what happened during that time, that you stabbed him and you put him in the trunk and he was found later. So today, I'm going to have to deny you based upon the serious nature of the crime and the adamant, strong denial from the law enforcement agencies.
I'm gonna be honest, man. No disrespect to law enforcement, but
And I'm gonna
I
have
hate
to
that
vote
excuse.
with Ms. Stapleton for the same reason, that the crime was committed during an escape from prison for a prior crime. That's a big deal.
Mm.
So, Mr. Boyd, today your parole has been denied. And this concludes our business with you today.
Thank you.
Parole denied. I didn't catch the beginning of that one. I just got back to the house, but I caught the tail end of it, was able to hear and see enough of what I wanted to see. Listen, what I meant by what I was saying about I hate, and I don't want to hear that about law enforcement. Here's the thing. He was in prison 50 years ago. Or he was arrested and sent to prison for this 50 years ago. He spent 50 years in prison. I don't think that those same law enforcement people are on the beat. So I understand what they're saying, because what they're alluding to, giving a little bit of trying to give some credence to what they're saying, what they're alluding to is that law enforcement would have to, in the case of a situation, would have to deal with him, right? But I'm one of those people that I guess I like to play what they call devil's advocate, right? Here's my question. Just being real. This isn't a law enforcement jab. I don't deal with them enough to have a personal feeling one way or another about law enforcement. But let me ask you this. In my estimation, they're not showing up before the crimes are happening. Like they're not out there superheroing it. Oh, there's one in over here. Let me go stop this or let me go break this up. They're there to bring the law. Stop. See, now all the damn animals are coming. They what's up? They are there to neutralize the situation to that extent, right? So, all this law enforcement, um, uh, hey, opposition, while I get it, I hate when they use that as the biggest one. You know what I mean? Victim opposition first. I want to hear about that. Um, opposition from, that's what I want to hear from. Victim opposition, then I want to hear about the record. Law opposition, that's what you do. That's what you do. Subvert, serve and protect. That's what you need to do. I don't know why. It bothers me when I hear that. Waiting on the next case. Looks like we only have one left. I pushed you over, didn't I? Come here. Come here, Harley. My English bulldog. Her name's Harley. Say hey, Harley. Say hey, Harley. Say hey. Loki doggy. And that's my other one. Loki doggy. I don't know if you can see him. Loki. All right, so waiting on this next case. What you guys think of that one? I don't care if you see this a month down the line. It's probably how it's going to happen. Um, Let me know what you guys think of it. That case. You know what? I think that it's easy to estimate. If I had to guess and estimate that Lucky doggy. Probably that's 10, other one. 10, 20% people actually get parole. Okay. She tearing up my trying to tear up my remote. Waiting, waiting, waiting. What is today? Wednesday? Ah. Hey, 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 hey. Hey, hey, hey. Okay, go ahead then. She left me to go lay on her own. So I don't want you in my space. She don't know what she want to do. Oh, why did you go out?
All right, the Committee on Parole is called to order. Today's date is October 2nd, 2024, and the time is 11:28 a.m. My name is Danny Barra, serving as your chairman today. My
Last
colleagues
case
on
of
the
the day.
panel are Ms. Stapleton to my left and Ms. Renata to my right. We're still at headquarters in Baton Rouge, and our remote location is still at Louisiana State Penitentiary. We're working on a case on Donald Gallo. Mr. Gallo, would you please state your full name and DOC number for the record?
My name is Donald Gallo. DOC is 126280.
I'm going to give you an explanation of the process. We'll start out by reading some information to the record and ask you to verify it. We'll give you a chance to speak and tell us what you did to cause your incarceration and why you think you should be released now. We'll have the warden at the facility speak. We'll allow public comments, 3 supporters to speak on your behalf and 3 in the opposition. Then we'll conduct the parole interview. Your case has been assigned to me, so I'll be the one asking you the first round of questions. Let's begin. Today we have for parole consideration Donald Gallo, DOC number 126280, who's a second felony offender who was convicted of second-degree murder and simple burglary and theft. And on March 17th, 86, and on July 21st, 95, was sentenced to serve life without the benefit of probation, parole, or suspension of sentence, and 5 years hard labor in Evangeline Parish. Your parole eligibility date was August 1st, 21. Your good time date, May 2nd, 31. And your full term date is October 26th, 69. Does that information sound correct to you, Mr. Gallo?
That's some time,
Yes,
boy.
All right. Well, you get the first question. Tell us why you're incarcerated, what you did to get there, and why do you think you should be granted parole on that charge?
Well, I met Mr. Tremy in 1984 through a friend named Charles Wilson. He was doing carpentry work on Mr. Tremy's rent houses. I wasn't working at the time. He asked me if I could help him build an extra room on one of Mr. Tremy's house, and I agreed to it. He introduced me to Mr. Tremy, and Mr. Tremy gave me the opportunity to show him what I knew how to do. So I helped him build the room. Mr. Tremy came by and inspected it and complimented Charles and me on a job well done. I had the privilege of knowing Mr. Tremy for 9.5 years. On October 6th, 1994, I went to Mr. Tremy's house to pick up $50. Mr. Tremy told me that he would need me to come that Sunday morning early enough to bring him to a Hessler, to a sale. I went to Mr. Tremy's house that Sunday morning and discovered his body on the kitchen floor. I panicked, I was overcome with fear, and I ran.
And, I was scared because I had, drugs on me. I had planned to drop the drugs off on the way to Hessler, to a person on the way to Hessler. Mr. Tremie didn't know nothing about my drug dealing. I was selling crack cocaine and marijuana. And, I'm sorry for, the things that I did. I know that I hurt a lot of people by selling drugs and stuff. Cause, I know that the, people that I heard, some of them was young women with children.
Wait a minute.
And I was taking the food out of them kids' mouth and wasn't even thinking about it. When I come to Angola and I was sentenced to, I was convicted of second-degree murder in '95 and sent to Angola, August 28th of that same year. When I came to Angola, I realized that I needed to do something with myself. So I enrolled in school and started participating in programs.
I'm confused. Wait a minute.
The program of living in balance and victim awareness really hit me hard. Because before that, I would take those programs when I was on the street. All I was worried about was myself, me, me, me. And my motto was get my money. And when I come to Angola and take those programs, it helped me to, it opened my eyes and helped me to understand that what I was doing was wrong, that I was hurting people by selling drugs to them. If I could see those people today, I would tell them how sorry I am and how wrong I was and how sorry I am for the pain and the heartache that I caused them and their family and the community. And I would beg for their forgiveness. And I apologize to everybody that I may have hurted in that community, that I know I've hurted in the community. I apologize to the police enforcement agency in that community and everybody else that I've caused harm to. And I pray that I could find a mercy today and y'all would extend to me the opportunity to prove to y'all that I'm no longer the threat that I used to be. I hope that the people can see that I'm not the same person that came here 30 years ago. I hope they could see me for the person I am today. And I would pray that they would show me mercy and allow me the opportunity to go back and show them that I can be a productive member of society.
Did he say anything about what he did though?
Thank you.
I'm confused.
All right, Warden, do you have anything you can tell us about his behavior there?
Yes, sir. He's a Class A trustee. He has a very impressive disciplinary record. He's received one disciplinary report since being incarcerated here. He's completed anger management, substance abuse, thank you for change, 100 hours, victim awareness. He received his GED in 2022, and he's currently in a program called Thinking to Win. Thank you.
All right. Today we have several people in support. We'll start with Mr. Kerry Myers from the Parole Project.
Good morning, and thank you for letting me speak on behalf of Mr. Gallo. I've known Mr. Gallo a number of years, more than a couple of decades. And I can tell you that what Mr. Gallo has told you today is very consistent with Mr. Gallo has always said. And it's easy for someone, I think, to come to this board and say that, take responsibility for something that they didn't do to get this board's approval. It's very difficult to come before this board to say what Mr. Gallo has said today, knowing what the requirements are generally for grant. He admitted to you that he was a drug dealer and that he had to change his life. And he has done that. And I know that personally because I know Mr. Gallo. I can tell you the Parole Project would be happy to have Mr. Gallo. He would be a long-term client of Parole Project. We know that he is very suitable for employment. Our employment enhancement team will work with him to make sure he's gainfully employed. We will provide him the mentorship and the programming that he needs after 30 years of incarceration to relearn the world, to take it step by step in the process of reintegrating himself back into society. He will be a contributing member of society should this board release him. I believe Mr. Gallo. I have always believed Mr. Gallo. I know that that's of no moment here. This board has to decide whether Mr. Gallo is fit to return to society. I just think that he has done something that is very difficult here, and has done what his conscience has told him to do. So I would just ask this board to consider Mr. Gallo's stellar record, his programming, his disciplinary record, his trustee status for the last 20 years, the things that he has contributed to his community, the things that he can contribute to the community upon release, and knowing that he has our support, and I ask this board to grant his parole today.
Thank you. All right. We have several people in support but not wishing to speak. We have Taylor Juice, a parole reentry from the Parole Reentry Clinic. We have Mattia Wright from the Parole Reentry Clinic. And we have Adrian Hutchinson, an attorney in favor but not to speak. And we have Mr. Robert Lancaster, his attorney with the LSU Law and Parole Project, to speak. So go ahead, Mr. Lancaster.
Yes, Mr. Barrett. Robert Lancaster with LSU Parole and Reentry Clinic here today, representing Mr. Gallo. Actually, Mattia Wright, a second-year student at the LSU Law Clinic, is prepared to give a statement of support. And Taylor Geis, who is a third-year law student at the Parole Clinic and certified under Louisiana Supreme Court Rule 20, can clarify anything necessary after the committee's interview with Mr. Gallo. So I apologize that the documents that you have indicating that Mr. Geis or Ms. Wright would not speak. They are speaking, and they did plan to speak prior to the hearing. So Ms. Wright could give her statement now.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Mattia Wright, and I'm a second-year law student at the Parole and Reentry Clinic, assisting Mr. Gallo, alongside Taylor Geis, a third-year law student who is certified as a student attorney under Louisiana Supreme Court Rule 20. Today, our supervisor is Mr. Lancaster. First, I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak in front of this honorable committee and also for considering Mr. Gallo for parole. Mr. Gallo is not the same man that he was when he entered the gates of LSP. 30 years ago, Mr. Gallo was a drug dealer in Ville Platte, making reckless and impulsive decisions. He has used his incarceration not full of resentment and despair, but in growth and reflection to reform the man he was, displaying maturity, restraint, and discipline. Traits that show this committee that they should have confidence in their decision to release, their hopeful decision to release Mr. Gallo without risk to the public safety. Mr. Gallo acknowledges the profound harm that have been caused by his past actions. He understands that he has destroyed social relationships. However, with programming from the past 30 years, Mr. Gallo has shown growth, accountability, and rehabilitation. Mr. Gallo has a high work ethic and an impeccable record at LSP that show that he has a desire to become a better man for himself, his family, and his community. Mr. Gallo has worked consistent childhood labor jobs from his childhood through his adulthood and while he's been here at LSP. He has worked 10 years in the carpentry shop and 10 years in tractor repair. Today, Mr. Gallo works at row crop at Prison Enterprises, and in his spare time, he volunteers in tractor repair when staffing is low and the staff needs assistance with repairing machinery. Mr. Gallo has only received one infraction over 25 years ago, demonstrating self-control, discipline, and respect for institutional rules and authority. 5 years after this infraction, Mr. Gallo was promoted to Class A trustee status, where he's remained for 20 years without further infractions. Mr. Gallo has completed all the available CTRP time that's been made available to him, amounting to 580 days. He has shown a commitment to personal improvement. He did not come before this board to he did not complete the CTRP with the hope of looking like a saint in front of this honorable committee. He completed the CTRP because he wanted to become an honest, noble man that walks in the light of God. Mr. Gallo has an unwavering faith that has guided him through his sentence here. He has committed to breaking bad habits such as smoking and dipping to live a life that honors God. Mr. Gallo was baptized in 2022 after his clemency hearing, finding support among the other men of the same faith as him here in LSP, relationships that will continue outside of LSP and that will positively impact his community. Mr. Gallo overcame his education gap when he came to LSP with a 5th grade education by completing his GED while he was incarcerated. Mr. Gallo has received notable remarks from figures within the DOC, notably Warden Falgu, who said that Mr. Gallo's record spoke for itself. And Mrs. Renatza, who is on this committee today, at his clemency hearing said that she was impressed by his record. Mr. Gallo has a low Tiger score, indicating a minimal risk of reoffending. He is eligible for parole within the next 7 years on good time parole. However, if he's released today, he would be released with discretionary parole. The Louisiana Parole Project would assist him in securing residency and employment in Baton Rouge. And further, this committee could impose any stipulations that they deem fit on his release. Mr. Gallo is aware of opposition from the law enforcement and the victims in Ville Platte. However, Mr. Gallo does not plan to return back to Ville Platte. He will permanently settle down in Baton Rouge with assistance from the Louisiana Parole Project. Mr. Gallo is a reformed man with the skills and an impeccable record, prepared to contribute meaningfully to society in a way that will not impede on public safety at his current age. Mr. Gallo prays that this committee considers his record and grant him the opportunity to live outside of the gates of parole so he can reflect the work that he's done while incarcerated on the outside. Thank you.
Thank you. Guys, do you have anything to add?
Jerry, you may as well,
Good morning, board. My name is Taylor Geis, and I'm here on behalf of Mr. Gallo. I am currently a 3-0 at LSU Law in the Parole and Reentry Clinic, and I'm certified under Louisiana Rule 20. I am also under the supervision of Professor Robert Lancaster. On October 18, 2021, this honorable board unanimously commuted his sentence, and they summed it up just like this. Mr. Gallo's record is impeccable, impressive, and excellent. Today, I want to highlight what the board saw then and what we hope you see today. Mr. Gallo, as mentioned, has received his GED. Now, this was particularly challenging for Mr. Gallo as he was taken out of his school in the 5th grade to start sharecropping for his family, to support his family. Not only that did he complete his GED, but he has also completed several programs here at LSP. As you will hear, and as he has mentioned previously, he is completing Living in Balance. He has also completed Thinking for a Change. And these programs in particular gave him the advice that he must think before he acts, that he must consider the consequences before his actions. As Mr. Myers mentioned, those programs will not stop if he is entered into society today. Rather, he will go to the Louisiana Parole Project, where we had further resources, further education, and further programming to ensure his success upon release. One of the biggest testament to Mr. Gallo is his work ethic. As Ms. Wright mentioned, he has spent 10 years at the carpentry shop, as well as 10 years at tractor repair. He has shown a commitment to his employer. But not only that, this honorable board, he has also shown a commitment outside of LSP. He has been chosen because of his dependability, his trustworthiness, to go outside of LSP and help construct buildings such as chapels in St. Gabriel. And it goes without saying that Mr. Gallo's record speaks for itself. He's had one write-up in 30 years. He's been a Class A trustee for 20 years. And he has resided in Camp F, the trustee camp, for 12 years. Now, Mr. Gallo understands that this is not the platform to advocate for his innocence. However, juries typically do not agree with innocent stories. But Mr. Gallo was convicted on a non-unanimous jury. And further, this board, a discretionary release today will provide greater protection to society rather than an automatic release when Mr. Gallo is in his 70s. With the Parole Project, he will have employment and housing. The statistics have shown that with those coupled together, he is not likely to offend outside of LSP. But regardless of that, board, Mr. Gallo understood that his life was to be spent here. Yet, as you can see, Mr. Gallo is not the man that came into this prison. He realizes that this is not about him. He has become a man of faith, a man of work, and a man of purpose. Mr. Gallo prays that this committee allows him to serve the remainder of his sentence on parole with any and all restrictions and conditions that this honorable committee deems appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. That's all the people we had wanting to speak. We do have, we don't have anyone here in person, opposition, but we do have opposition documented in the pre-parole and the clemency investigation. The judges opposed, the district attorney is opposed, and the sheriff and Evangeline Parish is strongly opposed. The victim's family is still opposed. So I've been assigned the case and I'll ask the first questions, and basically I need to start with just a brief summary. You were found guilty by jury of second-degree murder on 7/12/95 and sentenced to life without the benefit of probation, parole, or suspension of sentence. On December 19th, 2023, Governor Edwards commuted that life sentence to 75 years with immediate parole eligibility, and you served approximately 30 years on that sentence. On October 9th, 1984, police were flagged down to check on Mr. Joseph Ray Treme. Officers found Mr. Treme had been stabbed several times in his neck, his chest, and other parts of his body, and that his throat had been cut. After collection and analysis of handprints, footprints, and other forensic evidence, along with interviews of several potential witnesses, Donald Gallo was arrested and booked into the jail for armed robbery and first-degree murder. Mr. Gallo, tell us a little bit more about what happened that day. I caught what you said in the beginning. You saying you found the body, and that was the first time you saw it, he was dead already?
Yes, sir. I went to his house that Thursday, October 6th, to pick up $50. And he told me he needed me to come by early Sunday morning to drive him to a antique show in Hessler. He said he always wanted to go to the shows or sales early, because he said the early bird always get the good stuff. So I went to his house that Sunday morning early and found him on the floor, found him dead on his kitchen floor.
And then what did you do?
I panicked. Fear came over me, and I knew I had the drugs on me, so I ran. I got away from there.
And you never called the cops or anybody, even after you got rid of drugs or anything?
No, sir. I was so scared, I didn't know what to do, sir. I was panicked.
So you find the body, you run because you have drugs. Even after you get rid of the drugs, you still don't call the police. How did you waited out until the police came to see you?
Well, they didn't come see me till a few days later. I don't know. They just come and questioned me about it. Once they questioned me about it, I told them that I went to his house that Thursday to borrow some money, and that I went back that Sunday and found him dead, and I just was too scared to report it.
All right. That's all the questions I have. How about Ms. Stapleton, you have any?
Yeah, I was just gonna add to what Mr. Bauer was saying. I was reading another report here that it says that, it appeared to be a robbery, that there were witnesses 2 days before the murder that said that you forced Mr. Gallo to loan you some money. And that, in doing so, you grabbed him and inflicted severe pain on him until he complied with the request. And so that may be what brought the police to your house. You think? You remember that incident?
I don't remember that incident, Ms. Templeton, Ms.
Did
Stapleton.
did you ever ask him to loan you some money?
No, ma'am. I went to his house that Thursday to pick up money. He knew I was coming to get some money that Thursday.
What were you getting money for?
Some, job I had did for him.
Oh, so he was paying you then?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that's probably what brought him to your house, because there were some witnesses that say that there was a conflict between the two of y'all, and that you inflicted pain on him, so he gave you some money. So,
That's something I never had to do, Ms. Stapleton. Mr. Ray was the type of person that would give you the shirt off his back. I've known Mr. Ray for 9.5 years, and me and Mr. Ray never had no kind of confrontation with each other, no kind of dispute or nothing.
okay, thank you.
Ms. Renat?
I have no
That's it. Ms. Stevens? That's it. You have any questions, Ms. Renata?
No.
All right, we're ready to vote, and I'm gonna sign your case, so
I'm gonna be honest.
I'll cast the first
I believe
vote.
him. This
Mr.
Louisiana.
Gallo,
I'm sorry, I believe him. They want you to
the
admit something you
jury
didn't
found you
do.
guilty. Whether you were there or not, we're not here to determine that. But the jury did find you guilty. I'm gonna have to vote to deny parole based on the strong law enforcement opposition and the opposition from the victim's family. Stapleton?
And I concur with Mr. Ballrock for the same reasons.
Ms. Renata?
Mr. Gallo, I sat on, I participated in your pardon hearing in 2021, and I stand by that decision. I voted for you then. I'm voting to grant your parole today. I would add, for the same reasons, and that was, the excellent conduct record. At that time, you also had a favorable recommendation by the warden. You still maintain a low risk score. The only, if that were successful, the only recommendation I would have would be that prior to release, you do complete the program recommended by Warden Premier.
All right, Mr. Gallo, today your parole has been denied, and this will conclude our business at Louisiana State Penitentiary at 11:54 a.m.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe that's it for the day. I believe that's it for the day.